Welcome to the Catholic Sobriety Podcast MINISODE. These shorter episodes provide quick tips and information that you can refer back to when you need it most, so you can achieve and maintain your desired level of sobriety. I am your sobriety coach and host of this podcast, Christy Walker. Let's get started. Are you ready to stop making snowballs and start cultivating precious pearls for a real and sustained change in your drinking habits? Are you wondering what the heck I'm talking about and what snow has to do with pearls and drinking? Well, stay tuned to this minisode of the Catholic Sobriety Podcast. I'm going to break it down for you. So, if you were listening to my episode 34, called The Transformative Power of the Pearl Technique, then you know a little bit about my pearl technique and why the way a pearl is creative is just the perfect representation for this transformation that my clients experience when they use this technique to manage their mind. I'll just give you a brief, if you didn't listen to episode 34, I'll just give you a brief introduction. So a pearl is formed when an irritant makes its way into an oyster. The oyster starts secreting a layer of nacre. It's a liquid. It's kind of like a swipe of nail polish is one layer of nacre. And the oyster or mollusk just keeps secreting layer after layer. And eventually it forms this beautiful, luminous, precious pearl. And it's pretty strong and durable. And the irritant that was once bothering the oyster is not gone forever, but it is managed, contained, and now it has transformed into, a testimony of sorts. It's a treasure. And so a lot of times when we misuse alcohol, instead of secreting those nice layers of nacre, we're just packing snow around the problem, right? So let's say you have these feelings of like shame, guilt, and regret because once again, you overdid it on the drinking and now you just feel terrible. And you promised yourself that you weren't going to drink, but you just feel really, really awful. And so you're just going to go ahead and drink to numb those feelings. So that's the irritant. And then you're just packing snow around it, right? Just picture yourself picking up snow and that little irritant, maybe it looks like a rock or who knows, something. And then you're just packing snow around it and packing snow around it, packing snow around it with every drink. And maybe it's not just alcohol. Maybe it's like shows you're watching or scrolling, all of these things that are making you feel comfort. They're making you kind of forget that problem, or they're making it not be so irritating. And, it works. You have like this nice, thick, strong snowball and it works for a while, right? But what happens to snow? It melts. Like it's not going to stay that way forever. And that is exactly what happens, because the next morning when we wake up, what are we holding in our hand? The snowball is melted and we're left with that problem again. Only maybe we didn't get a good night's sleep because we were waking up because the way that our body was processing the alcohol was disrupting our sleep. Maybe we just feel sluggish, tired, irritable, all of those things. And on top of whatever the original problem was that we were drinking to forget about or numb ourselves to. So to create that real lasting change, I've developed this pearl technique. And the pearl technique, you're using this not just to like get it away from you, but you're actually using things to put around the irritant that are really actually going to protect you. They're not going to melt away. So when we use the pearl technique, we're just layering some really good, substantial, a hard shell around that irritant. And to do this, we use these 5 things. So PEARL stands for pray, examine, analyze, reframe, and leverage your faith. And again, if you listened in episode 34, I talked about what each of those steps are, but I'll go over it a little bit more today. So the first one is pray. So when we begin with prayer, we are pausing, we are praying. Once we face the circumstance, the situation, whatever it is that has kind of triggered us or the urge has come up, and we're just going to pause and pray. We're going to engage in a conversation with the Holy Spirit, asking for strength and guidance. You can do that in whatever way, feels right for you. And after we've kind of calmed ourselves down, maybe even taking some deep breaths. Like, how often do you take deep breaths? Probably not that much. We take a lot of shallow breaths. But when you pause and pray, I just ask you to take a deep breath. And as you blow out, begin your prayer. And that'll just calm your nervous system so that you are in a good place for the next step. Now, the next step is examine. And what we do in the examine stage is we take time to reflect on our thoughts and feelings and understand their root causes. So a circumstance may have arose, and then you have a certain thought, and then that certain thought leads you to feel a certain emotion. Now, feelings are neither good nor bad, they're just feelings, but we can change our thoughts so that we will get different emotions that will help us take actions that will get us different results. So what you do in the examine phase is you examine those thoughts and feelings. Are those thoughts good thoughts? Like, do they sound like God's voice? Are they calming? Are they convicting? Are they kind? Are they loving? If they're not, if they're condemning, if they're shaming, if they're criticizing, those aren't from God. And usually those types of thoughts are going to lead to feelings that bring about a result that is not what we want. So then the next step is analyze. And when we analyze in this step, we're looking at the facts of the situation and we are separating them from emotions. Because the facts aren't feelings or opinions or thoughts. Facts are facts. And so once we can separate those from our thoughts and feelings, it really helps us in the next step, which is reframe. So when we reframe our thoughts, we are adjusting our thought process based on how we want to feel in this situation, not on the current emotions. So if you want to feel accomplished or if you want to feel encouraged, then you might want to change a thought like, I have no willpower, which makes you feel defeated, to the thought that I am still working on building my sober muscles. And then that will make you feel encouraged. And then you may take different actions. All of this is laid out, by the way, in my 5-day free Sacred Sobriety Kick Start, which I'll have the link in the show notes, but you can also go to my website, the Catholic Sobriety Podcast, and there's a pop-up there where you can sign up. It has videos, it has a workbook. You don't have to do it all in 5 days. You can take your time and do it however you like, but I really break down the PEARL technique for you in that. Also, anyone who goes through that Kickstart will receive a discount off my Sacred Sobriety Lab, which is launching December 12th. And I'll have more information about that for you coming soon. Okay, now we are on the last step of the PEARL technique, which is leverage your faith. So if you notice the PEARL technique, again, we begin with prayer and we end in prayer. And when we leverage our faith, we are turning to the Lord, drawing upon our faith in God and asking for His help in guiding us in planning and preparing our next steps. And that will make sure that when we are faced with a circumstance like this again or something similar, we will know what to do because we've already made a plan and we've done it with the Lord. So I encourage you every day with everything, just practice asking God what He thinks, asking for His advice, asking what you should do next. You will have so much more peace and clarity even in the midst of struggle, which is going to happen. It happens to all of us. But when we choose to do the work to make lasting change by creating a pearl versus packing snow around our problems as a temporary fix, the snow will always melt, revealing our problems. But the pearl will encase that irritant in God's grace, in the tools, in the resources, in the information, in the clarity that you've gotten. It's just so much more transformative, and it will be lasting, and it's going to be a tool that you will use for the rest of your life, not just in relation to your drinking, but lots of things in life. So go out there and make some pearls. And don't forget to sign up for the 5-day Sacred Sobriety Kick Start. It's free. Well, that wraps up today's episode of the Catholic Sobriety MINISODE. Thank you so much for joining me. And please be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss a thing. And remember, I am here for you. I am praying for you. You are not alone.